Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you. In fellowship there comes a duty to others. There are certain bonds to be kept. And certain laws to be understood and reverenced. Who shall stand in his holy place? He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, such have fellowship with the Father. They delight in his laws and understand and cherish them. Yet many of us may complain that the way is hard and that the obligations are many and heavy to bear. Are we not judged out of our own mouths? Should we not rather take him at his word and know the truth of his assurance, my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and that he will place no burden upon us that we are not able to bear? One who sought true fellowship told of the experience in these words. I saw a vision. In it I was able to discover what it meant to be selfish. I beheld myself in the school of life, using what little spiritual food I had for my own benefit. I was sitting on the side of a hill, eating. I soon realized that the ground upon which I was sitting was beginning to crumble. My food was also rapidly diminishing. A voice said, to him that hath not, it shall be taken away from him even that he seemeth to have. Suddenly, I became aware of my destitute position. My food was gone, the earth was receding, and great billows of water were about to overtake me. I arose and began to climb upward, slowly, laboriously. I eagerly sought and accepted help from those I had formerly considered on lower spiritual planes than I. These words came to me. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap, and all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. That which we think, we become. That which we are, we reflect. That which we reflect, others judge us to be. We may be mistaken in our estimation of ourselves, and others may misjudge us, but God looks on the heart and knows all things. He knows our purposes and what we are capable of becoming. The Master said, Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, though he knew that Peter in his weakness would deny him. It is our duty to walk before others in such a manner that they may see the good within us and thus glorify the Father. It is our duty to be on our guard at all times, lest we lose courage when called into the judgment hall, to give a reason for the faith that is in us. We must see that our fellowship is able to stand the test in every trial, so that no one can point the finger of scorn at us and say, Hypocrite, even your words condemn you. It is our duty, yea, our privilege, to make all men see what is the fellowship of the mystery, which from the beginning of the world hath been hid in God, and now is being revealed. Come, my children, lift up thine hearts that I may enter in. As ye have chosen me, so have I chosen you, that ye may be a blessing to those who seek in my name to know the truth, as may be magnified in their lives through thine aid in me. Grace, mercy and peace is given to those thou asketh for in the proportion as thy trust, thy faith, is in me. As ye seek through raising in self that image of love in him, so may thine self be lifted up, and the understanding come to him who seeks for same. How should the group make itself known to those whom it might help? Fear not that thine work will not find an outlet once there is union of purpose. Has he not said, Be joyous in that I have chosen thee, as thou hast chosen me, and ye may be lights in my name? Be of good cheer. For I will stand in the stead of him who puts his trust in me, hath said the Lord, and he is able and willing and anxious to do that for those who love the coming of the consciousness of self's being emerged, ruled, controlled by his Spirit. Keep that thou hast kept in thine heart, and make this manifest in the life. In those experiences as come as those of the influences towards contrariwise conditions, these make for a tendency to be almost pessimistic from every angle except from love's influence, yet a tendency to drift even when pessimism abounds. Hence the stability as must be builded by the entity in its crystallization of thought towards mental conditions, material aspects, economic influences, home ties. Duty is the binding word, as it were, to the entity, until it may be lost in love, honor, kindness, peace, tranquility, joy in service, joy for others, disregarding of self's interests in any manner, lost in glorification, lost in the glory, as may be shed through that of the influence of reaching upward to that of the entity's ideal. And when there have arisen and do arise those things that to others become duties and obligations from the moral experiences of the earth, the entity has turned and does turn to same rather with the attitude or the purpose that the love of the creative forces, through the expressions of same, might be made manifest. Then, this makes the obligations or duties, as considered in the minds of some, become rather as a loving experience. As the expression of self in relationships to individuals, causes, purposes that influence groups and even masses of peoples. Duty is well, but the lack of love influence may oft-times make for misunderstanding. Cultivate rather that in thy experience with duty. Not as duty alone, but let thy duties always be as opportunities for the expressing or manifesting of that, as may be chosen as thy ideal. Have thy ideal, yes, in the material, in the social, in the economic. But above all in the spiritual. For unless all of these, while they are one, are founded upon the spiritual, they will turn upon thee. This indeed is what is meant by that given, what profited a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what profit a man who lays up treasures where moth and rust do corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal? Rather lay up the treasures in the heart, the love, the spiritual things. For these bring the harmony and peace in the experience of the individual that may become the stay, and that upon which one may rest with when the storms of life come about that are in the experience of all. The law of the Lord is perfect, and it faileth not when ye allow same to be magnified in thee, thy works, thy thoughts, thy deeds. Then hold to the light that is found in the promises of the Christ, what ye ask in my name, believing, and doing my will be answered in thee, if thy purposes and thy desires are made wholly one with same. These are thy promises, not just for others. For until ye have known the Lord thy God as thy God, personally, ye have only heard of truth. Thy appearances in the earth have contributed, do contribute to those conditions which confront thee in the shaping of thy life, thy affairs, thy purposes, thy desires. For as given, life is one. For life is the manifestation of that influence or force called God, and hence is eternal. What, then, will ye present in thy body, in thy mind, as ye grow, as the growth of thy soul, that ye must present before thy Lord, thy God? This, then, is that ye shall live in peace, in harmony first with God's laws, and then ye will find that man's laws are patterned after his laws in such measures that there is not to be found but good in thy relationships to others. Am I using my abilities and accomplishments to the purpose of this entity? Who is to judge but self? Judge not if ye be not judged. Do you measure up to thine own ideals? Do you cast judgments upon others? Answer within self. Who made me a judge of thee? Think not more highly of thyself than ye ought. Not that these are in fault, unless in so doing ye belittle others by comparing them to thine own self, and consider thyself as superior. Then ye are becoming a judge and belittling others. For ye have not begun to think straight until ye are able to see in the life of those whom ye utterly dislike, something ye would worship in thy Maker. For each soul entity in the earth, with life, whether of this or that shade or color, or whether this or that disfigurement of body or mind, is in the earth by the grace of God. For he has not willed that any soul should perish, and has thus prepared a way of escape. And ye, as his servant, as the child of the living God, are given the opportunity to contribute to the welfare of any whom ye even consider not quite on par with thy opportunity. Thus if ye belittle others, what sort of a tree will grow in thine own heart? Ye may be sure someone else will belittle thee. That is thy warning, my dear. There are no shortcuts to righteousness, and the call is ever that as he gave, a new commandment, that ye love one another, filling the whole purpose of his activity and lesson in materiality. The first was, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy body, thy mind, thy soul, thy neighbor as thyself. This is the whole law. Grace is that ye love one another. With these, then, as thy ideal, set to work to use that thou hast in hand of every nature to make same manifest in thy associations, thy dealings with thy fellow man. Truth needs not justification but glorification. In self must come the answer. For the way may appear hard, and as if ye walk alone, but with his promise, his purpose being thy purpose, the yoke becomes easy, the burden light. In the abilities of the entity, and that to which it may attain, and how. As has been seen, there has been builded that in the present that has drawn the entity nearer and nearer to that open door. And, as he has given, he that seeks, he that knocks, shall not be denied that makes the burden easy, nor thy cross light. For my yoke is easy and my burden light, to those who have gained entrance to that kingdom of life and light as is in him. Man only may separate himself from the love of the Father. For, as ye do in thine heart and mind unto others, that is thy measure of the Lord's will with and among men. Make thy will, thy sole activity, then one with his. Yea, the star rises in the east and will direct thy ways to him that is calling, come unto me, ye that are weak and heavy laden. Ye will find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden light. Wilt the love of the Father and of his purposes with thee in the earth, but guide and direct thee in the things thou thinkest, thou doest, in thine experience. Let there be light in thy soul. Let there be joy in thy heart as ye come to commune with him and thy loved ones in the earth day by day. As the prayer of the seeker, so is the touch of the body in the ways that are kept open before the Lord. Let the glory of the coming, then, keep bright in thine inner self. For the light of his countenance will lead and direct thee wilt thou, but make thy will, thy desire, his desire. Suggest a plan for this inner development and the correct expression of the results of this development to others. As we may find, through these channels there has come that which is a step-by-step for self-development. Then first in learning to cooperate, in knowing self, in setting the ideal and following in the lines of those thoughts, does self-expression come. In knowing the oneness of the Father, in love. And then there will be within self the impelling to make known the joys of life. For, as he has said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light, to those that have seen the light. To those that are in darkness, they are crosses, they are burdens, they are stumbling stones. Yet, finding self, find self-expression in same, and give. Even as it has been given unto you, measure ye unto the sons of men, dare to do that as the conscience leads thee to do. One that loves the usage of worldly possessions for the worldly possession realities in physical, rather than for benevolent or beneficent purposes in same. Yet the love and the big-heartedness of the influence in Jupiter brings much of this world's goods to the entity in the disposing of same. Well, then, for entity to take account of self and know that to him that hath, and uses a right, to him shall be given. To him that hath and abuses that privilege, to him shall be taken away even that he seemeth to have. Is there going to be a great spiritual change immediately following this war? Its effect on economic conditions in this country? That depends upon what you, as millions of others, do about it. Do ye choose that such should be? Do ye choose this as the opportunity that people shall be warned that the day of the Lord is at hand, and let every man forsake the old ways and cleave to that which is good? This can only be answered in thyself. For, to him that hath shall be given, unto him that hath not shall be taken even that which he seemeth to have. Please analyze my development, mentally, spiritually and materially during past 3 months, and advise me what best now to do to further improve my ability and approach to further my general equilibrium? As has so oft been given, find self and analyze what prompts the impulses in the various directions of activity. Not alone have these been, nor should anyone's activity alone be. For the immediate alone, or for the sustenance even of life as physical alone, but rather know that the self must be guided by that which is ever constructive in the experiences of all who are being guided, aided or contacted through each activity. For unless same is ever constructive in each phase of the activity, it must eventually turn and rend thee. Look into thine whole 7-8 years of associations and see what has been the prompting formula of thine own self in thine associations. To follow the lead, to be guided by the led, or has it been for self-exaltation, that there might be boastfulness here, there, or in this manner, or that self might be exalted in some position, irrespective of who was affected by those activities in other directions? Then, as ye know that like begets like, as ye know what seed ye sow ye will reap the fruit of that sown. For men do not gather figs from thistles nor grapes from briars. Is 257 conducting his affairs now in a manner approved by the higher forces of all good gifts? This had better be approved within self than attempt to prove or to approve something without, outside of self. If the conscience within self is in line with that the entity holds as its ideal, in its relationships with its associates in every way and manner, then know these are in keeping. For as ye sow, so shall ye reap, this is an infallible, irrefutable condition or experience. And the more one becomes aware of one's obligations to self, to the fellow man, to the relationships, greater becomes one's abilities to deal with others and to succeed. Hence, as has been given, my spirit beareth witness with thy spirit. This then is not a judgment, but rather is an ability for an individual who would know himself to check upon himself. As to the appearances in the earth, while all are not given, these we find indicate the pattern, indicate that which may be part of the experience. But know that no urge is greater than that of the mental self. For nothing may separate this from the love of God, the Father, save thine own self. For, as ye treat others, ye are treating thy God. The conditions in the activities of the mind and body and soul, know that these are one. The body is using the experience of life well. Keep in that way of the ever-creative influences and such activities as are applicable toward individuals, and we will find these will not only give a better outlook, but make for better activity of the mental, of the spiritual, and the results in the physical will be much improved. These are general, yes, but make them specific in that, as ye would that others should do to you, do ye even so to them. Am I justified in feeling that we shouldn't live in the same town with my husband's mother? These should never be the attempt of justification, save by faith. Is the justifying being kept in accord with that which has been given as the fruit of the Spirit? Is it being kind? Because of those conditions which arose, do to others as ye would be done by. For the law of the Lord is perfect. It converteth the soul. And that ye think, that ye devour as it were, that spirit of same ye become. These may be at times confusing. Yet keep this as the basis of the experience, or as the measuring stick of all thy experiences, and these will become as stepping stones then for a development towards a more perfect understanding. That the entity or soul, or the animation that makes for the movements of the consciousness of the entity, so long as impelled with or by helpfulness, hopefulness, love, patience, long-suffering, fellowship, kindness, gentleness, is of that creative energy. When turned to those influences that are of a selfish desire, an exaltation of self, these become as canker upon the soul that may eat, that may destroy, that may make for doubts and fears. But as self in any of its experiences is a channel for the expression of the fruits of the spirit of a living animation, a living God, these be growths, These be unfoldments, illuminations in the experiences of the entity. And unless each soul entity, and this entity especially, makes the world better, that corner or place of the world a little better, a little bit more hopeful, a little bit more patient, showing a little more of brotherly love, a little more of kindness, a little more of long-suffering, by the very words and deeds of the entity, the life is a failure. Especially so far as growth is concerned. Though you gain the whole world, how little ye must think of thyself if ye lose the purpose for which the soul entered this particular sojourn. Think not more highly of thyself than ye ought to think, yet no one will think more of you than you do of yourself. Not in egotism, but in the desire to be of a help. For who is the greatest? He that is the servant of all, he that contributes that which makes each soul glad to be alive, glad to have the opportunity to contribute something to the welfare of his brother. These are thy virtues or thy faults, dependent upon how you use them. A good lesson here for everyone to learn who would know the way of the Lord. Be patient, be just, be kind, be long-suffering, show brotherly love, and then don't worry about what's going to happen. But be sure you do these. When you get to the place where you would worry, this is for the entity, stop and pray. For why worry when you can pray? For God is not mocked, and He remembers thee in thy sincerity and thy purpose. For he, man, has been made just a little lower than the angels, with all the abilities to become one with Him. Not the whole, nor yet lost in the individuality of the whole, but becoming more and more personal in all of its consciousnesses of the application of the individuality of creative forces, thus more and more at one-ment with Him, yet conscious of being Himself.